Ladies and gentlemen, we're rolling. I'm going to start with this. Aleksander Lingauer DMs me August 25th, 2024. Brother, I just finished your conversation with Zach Pogrom. Your content has been top-notch for a long effing time now, and it's been a pleasure watching you develop. I'm reaching out to document here that you and I will one day sit down for your podcast. By then, having already established a genuine friendship, don't take that foot off the effing gas, man. Blast straight into the effing stratosphere. You're going to go all the effing way, and I'll see you there. Much love, APL. We've done 2 podcasts with each other, I believe, and now we get to sit down with each other in person. Last conversation released March 4th. I promised you that I would be there in person to share a post-race hug or a hug of sorts. We established that outside. I was on the phone, unfortunately, taking care of some business. But here we are in person. How has your life changed since that DM, August 2024?
August 20. I was just finishing up P61. I must have been around day maybe 55 of my 61-day cross Germany run. It was evening in Germany, and I DM'd you right after I listened to the episode. I remember that very well. My life since, I have been able to make whatever this sport is, whatever this life is, into a sort of living. This is now my predominant way through that. This is what I put most of myself into now. I've become very close friends with Zach. He is the connective tissue between me and almost all good things that have happened to me in this space. It's very interesting.
Man.
Very good man. Very good friend. And like I said in that DM, like I foreshadowed, I'm very comfortable saying we've become friends.
Mm-hmm.
And now after this race, much of what we discussed in the last conversation in March, brother, I feel like a different man.
Good.
You know?
Good. And I think the people who listen to that conversation will be happy to hear that. I don't want to take any credit, but I will say I think I asked you questions in that conversation that lit a fire under you that allowed you to line up on the day of the race last Friday with a different mentality than 45 days ago before we had talked. What did that conversation, even just sitting down with me, take me out of it, I feel weird talking about me, but what did that conversation or having someone ask you hard questions about yourself do for you?
The conversation we recorded, the podcast we had, was very impromptu, but what it gave me was an opportunity to publicly expose myself to these feelings that I've been feeling and working through and documenting and journaling through, but to then do it publicly, to give the world, to give people who are watching you, people who are admiring but also criticizing you, the opportunity to partake. Inevitably, that will permeate you to some degree, but it also allows you to stand 10 toes down and be like, listen, this is the circumstance I'm in. This is the, excuse my language, this is the shit I'm currently in. And I don't want to portray myself as anything else other than I'm a struggling, confused, and to be quite frank, also, at the time, certainly, insecure young man going into something very big that means a lot to me. But really, post-conversation, post that talk we had, all of a sudden, the run started feeling a little easier. And the long runs,
the girl in the dress.
The long runs started to feel a little more dreamy. And like you, yeah, exactly. The lady in the red dress was dancing with me again, you know? And I was like, oh my, this is
Glenn Miller jazz in the background.
Exactly. It was
2-7.
And that's all she wrote, you know?
And I think you DM'd me, or maybe the day up, I think you got off that conversation and there was just a mindset shift. And it was a total, I think, God moment in retrospect because I'm always on it with my guests. I release an episode every other day. I've been doing it for 3 years now. Rarely do I miss a gap, but sometimes a guest will fall through and then I'll have to get someone on, or maybe I got busy another aspect of work and I'm like, oh gosh, I got a schedule. And I sat there, I want to say it was Tuesday or Wednesday, I think Tuesday, and I thought, who do I want to have on that I really love that I haven't talked to in a minute? And so I scrolled through my catalog and stopped at your episode. I was like, he's the one. So I shot you a DM. And so even that, there was no plan on my end of like, oh, I'm going to DM him this day. It was just like, God moment, I should have him on. I haven't talked to him in a while. We always hit it off when we talk. Always wisdom sparks fly. And so it was really cool to get you on. And then for the conversation to go radically different than I thought it would going into it. You know, for all I knew, you were going to come on and rave about how good training was going and how you were in the best shape of your life. But for you to honestly sit down and say, man, I'm a mess. I've been struggling. I'm not motivated. I don't really love running right now. Like I don't know what's going to become of this race. And then to document that, I mean, I'm sure you did as well. A lot of messages appreciating the vulnerability, the courage to speak so honestly. And then now, a beautiful race result to tie that conversation to. Because, I mean, as I said, if you only ran one lap, okay, whatever. But to go, I think you went 37 laps is, I mean, just utterly, utterly remarkable. I do want to go back to a conversation I had with Zach off air yesterday. You followed him on social media. He throws together these run clubs. You fly, I don't think having much money in your account, from Europe to the United States. You meet Zach, relationship hits off. You then crew him at BPN. You meet Kim there. You crew for Kim. You kind of pop off a little bit there. Run his ultra in the fall.
Yes.
Crew him again. Really get some recognition.
Yes.
And then, I mean, let's be real. This past week, your numbers are doing well.
I'm going to say it this way. Whatever success I've had in this space has been a direct result of acting on intuition. That's all it was. With Zach, as you mentioned, I had followed him on the socials because I loved his writing. It was so incredibly genuine and true. And then he announced that he's doing this run club, but it was only like it was an invite only on a reel. So I commented, you know, if I fly to New York, can I run with you? And he was like, are you serious? I was like, yeah. I said something like, flights across the Atlantic are expensive, but time spent with the right people is invaluable. I want to come run with you. And I did. And I was injured because I just ran the last marathon with Russ Cook, who ran the length of Africa. And I ran his last marathon of that world record in Tunisia, and I twisted my ankle. But I was like, I'm running with Zach Pogrup in 3 days. I have to be fit. Flew over, ankle was swollen. We ran for 8K. I smoked him in the sprints afterwards too, just to establish myself and be like, you know, set this relationship off on the right foot here. Yeah. And everything downstream from that, every decision, crewing for him at BPN last year, completely just, he posted it. I intuitively texted, I can crew for you. He was like, cool. Same with Kim. We went to bed after Zach was out. Kim was still running. In that night of night 2, I was like, if Kim's still running the next morning, I'll go out and ask the kid if I can help. I didn't know him. Woke up the next morning, he was running. I drove out. That's all she wrote. LSU, same thing happened. I was officially signed as a rapid athlete. I towed the line for the race. Did after 12 hours because I had a huge electrolyte mistake and just shot myself out of the race early with stupidity. But then went home, recovered, came back, crewed for him. Things went as they did. He won the race. You have to be able to dance with whatever circumstance you have, with whatever your body is telling you. I'm a very cognitive man. I appreciate, and this might sound horrible to people, I apologize if it does, I appreciate the little intellect that I do have, but you have to be able to decide and think through your body. And that's why we're friends right now. It's the same thing, you know?
I love the saying, if you risk nothing, you risk everything. Or if you don't risk anything, you risk even more. And how many people saw that reel from Zach saying, I have a run club?
Yes.
Said nothing, did nothing. I was one of those people. I don't know if my life would have drastically changed if I went. But the point being, like, you're no different than anyone else, except you did the thing that everyone else didn't do. And so anyone listening at home who envies your life now or envies the life of anyone who's successful, 99% of the time it wasn't luck. It was they made that uncomfortable decision. And I want to ask you, what did you feel on the plane flying over to the States, not knowing anyone, not knowing the plan, and just meeting up with a guy that you met on social media?
Good question.
Were you nervous? Scared?
No, not at all. I've traveled a lot in my life, and when I say that, I mean I haven't just traveled as a young man. I've traveled as a child. Growing up, we had moved around so many times. I was raised in Ireland and England and Germany, and so I think coming over for the first time last year, in no capacity was I worried about who I'm going to meet. None of that. Even the crewing and the race situation. If anything, I was just excited to see Zach again. That was kind of the whole thing. Yeah.
Is it crazy to you, the timeline I drew out, and just thinking, wow, my life has drastically changed in the last 2 years, and I'm the same man, but yet I'm not?
Yeah, I don't think, in most capacities, I'm not the same man. Like, you can look at this time period of 2-3 years and you can be like, it's just been going upwards for you. Hasn't been the case. Like, after Go1 More last year, I had to come back to Europe, and then I worked a hospitality job in Mallorca in a hotel as a waiter by the pool. After that extreme high in Texas, where people were all of a sudden, like, this space was recognizing me, you know. I remember this, I sound like a fanboy, but it's just the truth. I remember on the plane back, I saw that Truett Haynes followed me. And I was like, it's insane. These people that I follow, and I'm like, I admire, have had like access to me. But then I was a waiter for the whole summer. And I struggled with that because I was like, I should be able to leave this behind now. This should be over now, you know? But that's how God rolls. That's how it goes, you know. And the same now with the prep for this race. This race went incredibly well. It was a fantastic weekend for me, but also for the entirety of Team Rapid. But the prep has been... I don't recall the last time I was this faced with such a challenge spiritually. The last week of 2025 has been arguably the most difficult week of my life since, you know, I was 13 and homeless and in foster care. So it's a constant up and down, just like it is in this race format, in these loops. You know, you experience highs and these radical lows. But ultimately, I told this to Kim yesterday. He knows what he's doing, you know. So
13, homeless, foster care. What would he think of you right now?
He would probably ask me, where'd your hair go? No. It's a good question because
Would he look up to you?
I think so. I spent a lot of time when I was younger thinking about who I'd be when I'd be older, what I would be, what I would look like. APL was created downstream from exactly that. It was my childlike capacity to use dreams to escape my childhood reality. And as a consequence of that, I could then fathom, create, orchestrate this character, personality, who was so much bigger than anything life could throw at me. That's what APL was created. Would he be proud of me? I hope so. I think so.
Is hesitancy to say yes the humility that you carry? Would be scared of being perceived as prideful or not fully owning your success?
No, I can admit that I certainly am prideful in certain regards. Like when it comes, for example, to, because I don't really share too much of it, but when it comes to my writing, I very, very openly can say I think I'm an excellent writer. I think I can orchestrate sentences, and my architecture of writing is very good. And I can be prideful in that. But regarding this, perhaps it's humility, perhaps it's also just like...
I can't think of a reason why he wouldn't look up to you. I mean, aren't you living a life that, I mean, even this, right? I mean, I don't know the first time you heard Nick Baer's name, but you're in his podcast studio right now. You're in his headquarters. You ran his race. You know, how many people have access to being able to walk into a warehouse and, you know, take some supplements? Or, you know, being flown to the States. I'm obviously from America, but from what I've perceived, Europeans, if you make it to the States, you're big time.
Yes.
Even if you visit, you're big time.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, you've done all of that and more. And I have no problem saying I and most others listening have had a crazy advantage over you. That's a hard life. That's a hard upbringing. You shouldn't be successful with that background, but you are, you know.
Perhaps it's I was asked recently, because we were recording interviews for the Rapid documentary about the race, and Alina, our manager, asked me a question. She was asking, it was kind of off the cuff. It wasn't a written down question, but she asked me, I've noticed, and I'm paraphrasing here, I've noticed that you have lived a life that forced you to be very good at helping others. But it seems as though you struggle to accept help in any capacity. You feel like a constant obligation to be of help. And I sat there, and for the first time in a long time, because I can, as you can tell, I can talk. But I was sitting there, and I was like, fuck. I was like, ay. And I think this is the same thing here. Like, standing in my shoes, I am aware of all the great things that have happened. I'm aware of what I did with my athleticism, with the running. I'm aware of what I did with the writing and the walkabout and my friends, the people in my life. I'm also aware of my mistakes. I'm also aware of I've done a lot of mistakes, man. I have mistreated people. I have been mistreated and responded poorly to that as well. And I think when you ask me, would my younger self be proud of me? I guess it comes down to what he would know about me,
But even if he knew the fullest picture, to expect perfection, when you meet a lady one day, you can steal this Riz line. Okay, so my girlfriend, I'll say, you're perfect. You're perfect to me. And she'll go, I'm far from perfect. And I'll say, you're perfectly imperfect, right? Humans are sinful creatures. They're prideful creatures. They're selfish creatures. They're angry creatures. They're emotional creatures. And we're not Jesus, so we're gonna mess up. We're gonna fail. And for someone, 13-year-old, Alex, to expect perfection out of you would be unrealistic and unattainable. And I think some of the most bonding moments is when someone fails you, someone sins against you, and you can turn the other cheek, as Scripture says, and say, you're human and you're flawed, and I love you anyways, and try not to make it happen again, but you're great as you are, And do we do that for ourselves? Because we're the ones who know all of our sins, all of our mistakes. And can we say, I didn't live a great life today, or I didn't treat that person well, and have enough humility to say, okay, what am I going to do so that doesn't happen again? Or what can I do to live a better day tomorrow? Like the most realist reflection of yourself is, what do you do when no one's watching? And I love this example that someone once said, like, do you throw the plastic paper outside the car window, when it's just you in the car?
Yes.
Do you push the shopping cart back into the thing, or do you just leave it in the in the middle of the parking lot? I would have a hard time being friends with anyone who leaves the shopping cart in the street. If they've done it once or twice, okay, again, that conversation, that's not like me. Deep down, I know that's not like me. But there are people who do that, and it doesn't bother them. And I think that says everything you need to know about someone's character.
Ultimately, I'd give 13-year-old Alex a big hug. And I'd trust him enough, because he was an angry kid. He was a very angry kid. But I trust him enough to decide for himself.
Some people say anger is a perceived injustice. What perceived injustice did you feel at that age?
I thought it was unfair that other kids had their own bedroom. That was one thing. I remember being 13, and then we lived with this amazing lady. Her name was Fiona. She was our third foster mother. And my brother and I had a bedroom again. But I remember thinking to myself, like, other kids at school, they would go home to their parents, mainly. And whenever they would get into an argument with their parents, they could go back to their room and to their posters on their wall and their pictures and their bed and that idea of it belonging to them and just them. I felt, for example, that was unfair. Or we lived in England at the time, and I played football or soccer for the Americans, and I had to walk, I don't know, it was like 5 kilometers to practice just to play with other guys, and everyone else was driven by their parents. And I was also like, sometimes I would get the offer, we can take, and I was too frustrated and I would always say no. But I would then, on the way there, I'd be angry at these kids for having parents who can drive them and whatnot, you know? And there were multiple such instances, but it was a lot. It was just, I have such a surplus of emotion. I'm a very emotional individual. Mountains and mountains worth of power in these emotions. And as a kid, it's very difficult to regulate them, especially when you haven't developed language well. That's the primary reason why I can speak so well, is because I had to learn to speak well to even be able to understand myself and work through whatever it was that I went through. But yeah, anger. Yeah.
Has running helped you come to peace with the reality that you just described to me?
Like nothing else.
Tell me how.
When I was 14, we left England, my brother and I, and moved to Germany. So we left the UK foster care system and we moved to our father in Germany, our father and his wife and our family there. Before the foster care, we lived with our mother, and through circumstances that were very difficult. I don't blame anyone in my family. My parents were both dealt a very difficult hand of cards to play with. We moved to Germany, and all of a sudden, my father lives a very comfortable life. He's worked very hard. So has his wife. They have, at the time especially, it was radically different. We went shopping for jeans once, and I remember telling my stepmother, like, I was 14, so don't judge me, but I was like, I like these really skinny, like colorful jeans. And I showed her a pair, and she took like 5 to buy. And I was immediately like shocked that we would spend money on 5 pairs of pants. And then she was almost like emotional about the fact that it was something, because I told her this is, so to answer your question, when we moved to Germany, all of a sudden I had to deal with the reality that life is normal. Whereas just weeks ago, I said goodbye to my mother, who, during our goodbye, and I want to be very clear, I'm not blaming her, I love my mother. During our goodbye, because she was going through a very difficult time, was drunk. And I didn't know when I'm going to see her again. And weeks later, I'm in Germany. I got food on the table 3 times a day. I haven't eaten 3 times a day in ages at the time. It was weird to me. It almost made me angry. I had whatever I needed, clothes, sports equipment, football in my free time, school, friends, family. And it was so much. And I felt so misplaced, so I went running a lot. I played football. I trained 4 times a week. I played once in the weekend. And every moment I had, I would go running. I was a skinny little kid. But over that first summer, I became really fit in terms of long distance running. My first marathon, I ran in 1:36 at 15.
Wow.
Just because I had so much emotion to deal with, and running offered itself as a mechanism through which I could escape into these dream worlds again that this life, this beautiful, comfortable life, didn't permit. And over the years, it hasn't changed. Running is still that to me. Running is still an opportunity to dream. It's an opportunity to go in here, and not out there.
I want to dedicate a portion of our conversation, obviously, to the race. But before doing so, bridging the gap between present conversation and that, you spend, and we've talked about this extensively before, you spend so much time with your thoughts out on the ranch, out on the course. And it really forces you to think, forces you to confront deep truths about yourself. Out on the ranch this year, did you think at all about young Alex, young APL, before APL was APL, the situation with your parents, the hardship, it's funny. Ultras, you have more food than you could ever fathom in a funny sort of way. You've got more support. People fly across the country to support you. Cameras on you, 15,000 people watching you on a live stream, thousands of follows coming in. Were you aware at all of, wow, I've come such a long way?
Surprisingly, no.
No.
I didn't think about that at all. It was because, like I said in the last conversation, in our last conversation, in reality, all that this race was about was entering the loop with an issue I had to face, and then leaving the loop an honest man. And by that I mean, I didn't want this race. I said to a very, very good friend with whom I don't speak to often enough, David, if you're listening, man. He goes by Recovering Overthink on Instagram. He's a writer and philosopher, and he's an exceptional thinker and a very loyal friend. I recommend everyone check him out. And I sent him a voice message, and I basically told him, I don't want this race to contaminate my soul. I don't want, if I go out there and I run 40 loops, 50 loops, 60 loops, but it wasn't everything, then for the rest of time, until I get another opportunity, which I don't know I will, there will be a small part of my brain, my soul, speaking to me when life gets really tough, telling me, remember that fucking race? You didn't go all the way, boy. So this time, all I wanted was to enter that loop, and I completely, with most of my strength, I really tried to detach from whatever number was at the end when I'm done. I just didn't want to leave that loop with anything that would contaminate me. And so some people, I've already seen certain comments, that's just how it goes. People call me dramatic and, the crying and whatever and the hitting my head. I did what I had to do to make sure I don't leave that loop a coward. And yes, 36 and a half or 37 loops or 30, I'm not even sure. I'm super happy. I know I'm capable of more, but I left that loop an honest man.
My notes are saying 37 loops, so Matt on my team, unless he got it wrong, 37.
Cool.
It's the number. Left the loop an honest man. I also want to say to you, friend to friend, you've made it when you start to get those comments because it means you're reaching enough people.
Yes.
A small percent is always going to be a negative Nelly,
yes,
so that's
yes,
good.
Yes,
that's
yes,
a good
yes.
sign. That's a good sign. Keep them coming. Yeah, man, I think that's just every time I talk to you, I learn something new. And, there are parts of my brain always want to orchestrate a conversation perfectly. And, should we go into race? Should we go into this? Should we go into that? But I speak human, I speak heart to heart. And I love diving into what makes you you in those parts of your story. And, people who are listening, not everyone, a ton of countries listen to this podcast, but predominantly American. We have it so easy, not everyone in the States, but vast majority of people, we live these cushy lifestyles. And my mom, she was one of 12 kids, if you can believe it. Her mom tragically died when she was 5. Dad worked 3 jobs to make ends meet, had 1 bathroom for the 12, 13 of them. And she would never say they were poor. I'll say they were poor. She'd never say they were poor, never would, even remotely complain. Very grateful for her upbringing. And I'm like, wow, I had it so good, even when I look at that. And what's funny is even my mom had it so good compared to you, right? Not to compare circumstances, but she at least had a bed. She at least had a present father in her life. And I love stories like yours, and I want to highlight that part of your story because how many people are like you who became a victim the rest of their life, and they died with the thought on their head it was their fault. And you're 26 or 28 or something, young, fresh, and spry. But you conquered the most dangerous thought of all time at such a young age and have made something of yourself. And I think that's really remarkable and worth highlighting. And as much as we could talk about the ins and outs of the race, that's more important to me than any of the race. Because if you're not playing the victim card, no one else can. If you've made something of yourself, why can't someone else? It comes from a way better circumstance.
Listen, I'm still trying. There certainly are people who have had it much tougher than me. I want to acknowledge that as well, and it is a constant. It is a constant effort. Again, the past few months, and I do not say this to complain, not at all, because they have taught me exactly what I needed, and it shows. The race proved that to me. But the victim card, man, if there is such a thing as a non-classified cancer for the mind and body, it's victimhood. It just does nothing for you. It does nothing for you. Even the acknowledgement that you are in the worst of circumstances and you've been treated unfairly, the acknowledgement will perhaps to some degree contribute to some emotional maturity, because it takes, some balls to be like, I'm in this circumstance. Awareness is important. But brother, victimhood does nothing. Nothing. It ruins you. It rots you from inside out. And I know this because I have sometimes in my life been a little too hedonistic with the understanding of what I've been through. And I have portrayed myself sometimes as, this happened to me. It happened for you. It happened for you, man. And it took a village of people to suffer through it. It wasn't just me. My mother, years of her life that she had to battle through. My father and his wife. My siblings. My sister in Poland, with whom I have no contact today. We all went through a shit show. But even then, it happened for us.
So good, man. So good. I always have thoughts with you, and then I lose them because I get so enamored by what you're saying. And the key of podcasting is always to have a question up your sleeve. But if you get too enamored, you lose the question.
You're good,
but that's the beauty of conversation. You're 13, homeless, foster care. No one believes in you. So far removed from that thought, even you just have no one. You feel like you have no one. Do you think that's why you are the motivator you are? Because you've gotten big. P61, I'm sure got you some recognition, but
actually almost none.
Yeah, almost none. But saying a few words to Kim Gottwald on Instagram gets you a ton. How you speak, how you motivate, how you love someone. Do you think? You're the ultimate hype man. You're the ultimate crew member. I love Kim, and I know this probably isn't true, but I think it's funny that he tapped out of the race when you were asleep. Correlation, causation, I don't know. But do you think you're that way and such a good number one man because you had no one as a 13-year-old, that you developed these skills that you wish you had someone doing to you?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. Yesterday, there was a brief moment, because I did drive back out to help Kim as much as I could, but I couldn't walk. Getting up and sitting down took me ages. So at one point I realized I'm of no help, unfortunately. However, when you get a moment while someone is in the dark place, and you get a moment to speak to them while they're in the middle of it, you have to, like I said earlier, you have to be able to let your body do the thinking. Let words roll. Sometimes you will miss and you will feel it's not connecting, but sometimes if you feel what you are saying, they will feel what you are saying. All you have to do is maintain eye contact and speak whatever you feel. And I've spent so many years of my life working through what excuse the language, what the fuck am I feeling right now? Hours of my life, hours of my life spent writing the most minute little observations of my emotional world on paper. That will eventually translate into something. It will translate into something in real time, in real life. And with that, I think the primary reason why I can connect to someone in these moments so well is because I had to connect to myself so well in those moments when I was younger. That's definitely, and it helps in these races,
I think you had briefly mentioned what the conversation was a little bit before, but diving into it deeper, you post on Instagram a picture of you in the church kneeling, and you say, I have a conversation I need to take care of this weekend. If you don't mind sharing, what was that conversation and was it taken care of?
Yes, I'd happily share. So before the race, before this big event, it is very... I mean, most people obviously went into this race knowing it's going to be a big public event. People are going to be watching. And I was going into it with so much on me, such a big chip on my shoulder. I didn't want to let down Rapid or Kim. I didn't want to let down my family. I didn't want to embarrass myself. But then I also, again, I didn't want to leave the loop a dishonest man. So I thought for a long time, what am I going to post before? I want to post something before. I want to write. I had this text written out, and then it was like, that's not it. And then I was like, okay, what do I want to say before the race starts? Because I want to say something. Shows a picture that Yuli shot of me in a church kneeling before the altar. And I said, I have a important conversation to take care of, and that conversation was with the man up above, was with the Lord Almighty. And that conversation was strictly regarding, who am I? I don't know who I am right now. I know what I wanted to be. I know what I tried to become. I know what I failed to become. Who am I? Am I still worthy of this? Is this the right path? Am I on the wrong path? Am I afraid? Am I a coward? Am I weak? Will I break when it matters? All these questions had to be taken care of. They had to be, because if I move forward with my life and I don't get them sorted, they will permeate into everything I do, into work, into relationships, into if I meet a woman in the near future, if I don't take care of these questions, if I don't take care of these questions will not be solved and dealt with, and it will show in that relationship. They have to be dealt with. So I went on that loop, and I think I was out of the race almost 4 times. Sure, I didn't go as far as the elites did in the race, of course. I have such respect for what Mark and Kendall. I got so emotional when Kendall was sprinting back into the last loop. What all these people did, there was such humanity at this event. There was such humanity. Stacy, whom I helped run her last half loop. Timmy, whom I've helped bring back out for the last half loop. Mark, who entertained a conversation with me about individuation and personality in the middle of it all. It was so special, but the conversation I had to take care of was Pavel said this to me, that the man you want to become is waiting for you at the end of that loop. And so somewhere around the mid-30s, because I couldn't sleep, I didn't sleep at all the first night. I tried every single hour, but I just couldn't sleep. And so when the second night hit, I did one very fast loop. I think I did 46 minutes. For me, that's very fast because the mud was tough to get through. So you ran at 46, but it felt like you were running a 39. And I got in, I laid down, and I tried to get some sleep with the extra time. But I woke up and I was dizzy. And then that dizziness just continued, and I started getting confused, and I started hallucinating. And for hours, I was just, trying not to die out there. By die, I mean, fail. And a lot of tears were shed, a lot of head slapping happened, a lot of screaming, a lot of begging. Don't let me go out like this. I still have more to give you. I still have more to give you. Please, I don't care what anyone else thinks. Just let me do this. And I feel I did. I feel we did.
What doubts came with that on those loops?
So many, man. I spoke to Mark about this after the race. Mark, this was shocking to me. Mark said that even he faces doubt even early in the race. He asked himself early in the race if he could even beat me. He was observing people, and he was observing me, and he thought, can I even beat this guy? Flattering, but also insane to hear. Doubts, man, so many. Because I don't remember the last 3 hours of my race pretty much. I saw footage that Rapid shot, and I saw some BPN footage, So things started connecting a little bit. And I saw the last time I went out on the loop. And my Achilles was hurt. I was crying, screaming. And that's all doubt. Those first 500 meters, that's just doubt. But you're still moving out into the night. But doubt is a mind killer, man. You gotta wrestle. You can't let it pin you down. You just gotta do what you can. And yeah, I was out of the race, that loop. I couldn't run anymore, so I just walked. And I realized I'm not gonna make it in on time. And on the way back, I was very afraid my team would be disappointed. That's just who I am, I guess. I was like, that's all I was thinking. I'm like, they're gonna be disappointed I didn't continue running. Not at all. I made it back. They were celebrating me. They were screaming. They were laughing, and I started crying again because I'm just a bitch that way. But doubt, man. I'm telling you, anyone who's listening who wants to do this format of race, if a Mark Doudle has permission to doubt himself 16 hours into the race, you do as well. The first day is usually the most difficult anyway. You do not avoid the doubt. Harvey Lewis was also doubt. Doubt will come.
How do you beat it? How do you overcome it? How do you wrestle with it and win?
Just finish the loop. And if you don't finish the loop, you try to finish the loop. And then you have permission to leave the loop an honest man or woman because you tried. If you fail to try, doubt wins. That's all it is. If you fail to try, doubt will win. Do not let that motherfucker win. It's not worth it. I'm telling you this because I have in my life multiple times let the motherfucker win. Don't let him win. He's a nasty fuck.
How would you extrapolate that example to someone who is in high school, college, doesn't know what a backyard ultra is, listening anyways, but doubts themselves? Doesn't necessarily even doubt the circumstances or the big things in their life, but doubts themselves, doesn't like the person they see in the mirror.
I think the way in which we breathe life into doubt is by avoiding the very things we're most afraid of. If you are a 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, I'm going to use a very generic example. If you want to ask the most beautiful girl in high school out to prom, but you don't have the balls, you're breathing life into doubt. And I understand it can be the most scary thing ever to ask an attractive woman whether or not you're worthy of her attention. Trust me, women can be scary that way because they're the most beautiful thing in the world. It's do not breathe life into doubt. Take action. Ask. Be stupid about it. Stumble. Stutter. I don't care. You will then at least give yourself permission to not doubt yourself next time as much. But that's really all it is. Figure out the ways in which you don't breathe life into doubt. And that is usually, in my eyes, done by not avoiding what you have to do. And again, I want to be transparent. I have avoided many things I should have been doing in my life. That's how I understand this. So,
what about someone who has a big dream or goal and they doubt themselves because they have absolutely no reason to believe it, no evidence to believe it?
Generate evidence. You have no evidence? Generate evidence. You want to run a marathon? Run a mile. If you can run a mile, you can probably run 2 miles. If you can run 2 miles, you can walk 4 miles. If you can walk 4 miles, you can probably walk 5 miles. If you can walk 5 miles, you can probably run 2.5 miles. Start somewhere, but just start. Generate evidence. Because there will come a time at which once you begin generating evidence, you build something called momentum. Again, a lesson I learned from my friend David. Momentum is like a very powerful drug. You start, and that bad boy just kicks off, and all of a sudden, you're like, oh, I should start doing more of this. This is good. Momentum is a beautiful thing. Generate evidence. That's all it is. Look at you. There's no reason for you to be as successful as you are at your age. Not at all. You talk with the biggest names on the planet in this space. At the snip of a finger. Immediately. It's just evidence. Your conversational skills since the first conversation we had last summer have improved rapidly. And you've only been in this for 3 years. Yeah, and imagine what this is going to be in 5 years. You have to generate evidence. That's all it is.
And it's obsession to the craft. I'll share, again, friends here talking like we're having a cup of water, not a cup of coffee. So what I do, Claude, I'm assuming you know AI Claude. Do you know Claude?
I'm aware, yes.
Yeah. So I created this master prompt, and I'm sure I could find it on my phone. I'm gonna laugh because you'll understand what I'm saying in a second. It'll critique me it'll want me to cut out this part of the podcast. But it's a project within Claude, and it's called Dominic's Leader Podcast Host Breakdown. Okay, underneath it, be the greatest podcast host ever. The instructions, relentless podcast host. And it's this long thing. Mm-hmm. Relentless host coach. You are my elite podcast host, performance coach, brutally honest, specific, and obsessed with making me the best conversationalist host alive. Every critique must include the problem, why it matters, exactly what to do instead, quote the transcript verbatim when referencing moments. And then it it goes on about all the ways to critique me, ways I can grow, improve. So every single thing I touch, every podcast I do, I upload the transcript into that, and it grades me immediately. And it makes me feel like shit 9 out of 10 times. I'll think I'm like, I nailed a conversation. They'll be like, you did blah, 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 boom, wrong. And I don't always agree with it. Genuinely, sometimes I'm like, well, that's just how I am. Or I did like that moment. For instance, it would be pissed I'm doing this right now. It'd be like, you totally detracted from the conversation. And I think this is raw and human. And I think people like this stuff. But obsession to the craft. I don't know what that looks like for a runner. I don't know what that looks like for a father trying to be a better father. But I get graded for every piece of work, and I take something from it. And if you told me, as flattered as I am, that you told me I'm better now than I was last summer, I would be concerned if that wasn't the answer.
Of course.
Because if you're not growing, you're dying. There's no medium. Anyways, I thought you'd appreciate that tidbit.
No, massively. I'm trying to phrase this properly. I'm glad you gave an example of you don't know what that looks like for a runner or a man trying to be a better father, because the craft can be anything, virtually anything. Fatherhood, athleticism, business, art. If what you really want is to engage in the act of true individuation, to become your fullest self in whatever capacity that is to you, you're going to have to learn how to be very attentive to your craft of choice. And again, if that is being a better father, all the power to you. If that is being a better podcast host, writer, runner, dedication, attention, obsession. Obsession is thrown around very loosely nowadays because it's a very nice buzzword. I get it. But you once you've met a very obsessive person or someone who is obsessed with what they do, you know. Zach, you meet Zach in person, you have him talk about Share Aura or back in the day about run, you know. You have you talking about podcasts, conversations, people, you know. You can feel it.
Do they think about it in the shower, and is it the first thing they think about when they wake up? And if you can say yes to those two things, they're probably obsessed. I used to take online classes as a kid, was homeschooled most of my life. And between classes, or I would just, no teacher even knows I have a podcast, but if they are listening, they'll chuckle. Probably not be too proud of me. Zoom would be up, and oh my gosh, the other tab open. I wasn't screwing around. I was doing, what pace do I need to run these 200s and 400s at? And I saw this workout that this professional athlete did, and what's a way I can make this for me, because I have a mile race 10 days out, and 10 days out is the window where you get all the physiological benefit, not 9 days out, so I got to do it 10 days out. And what's the wind going to be, and is it going to be on the back stretch or the front stretch? And okay, so maybe I have to run this 400, the first 200 faster, and then the second 200 where the wind is, enough buffer time so that I still hit my split, and how much rest should I take, and how's this going to play into 2 weeks later when I want to peak for that race? And that's how I thought that way as an 8th grader. Yeah. And it was like, oh, running's my thing, because I wanted to think that way. Like no parent had a gun to my head and was like, care about running.
Yes.
You know, it was like, when you're looking at the wind speed at your local track for your workout because you care that much about it,
Yes.
you're probably obsessed.
And there's also the question downstream from this. People ask me often in DMs. I think people generally have is, how do I become obsessed? How do I become so interested in something? That's the answer. Interest manifests itself. You have no say in where your heart screams at you and is like, this is the thing, man.
Well, I'll give you a great example.
Hit me.
So you're gonna visit me in Columbus soon. We'll coordinate this.
I can't wait.
Come live with me for
I
a
would
week
love
or two.
to. I would love to shake hands with your mother too. I feel like she's a great lady. The
You would
stories
love
I've
her.
heard,
We can call her after this. You'll appreciate it.
I love that.
You'll visit me in Columbus week, 2 weeks, get you over to the States. I could introduce you to a beautiful lady in a red dress, brunette as you prefer. And I can't force you to love her, right? You know, damn, I hope you guys get married so you can get your visa and move over here. But I can't force you to love someone. You couldn't force me to love Emma, my girlfriend. It just happens. And then, you know, you think they're attractive, you maybe know something about them. Okay, you take them on a date. You rave to your buddies, went super well. You know, maybe she'll say no to a second date. I don't know. Is this too good to be true? Keeps going. Months over time, you go through conflict. You love her a little bit more. It comes over time, and you can't force it. And like, I couldn't force you to love someone, but I could introduce you maybe to someone. Not to put thoughts in your head, but who knows? This could happen. Maybe I'm manifesting on the podcast. God will make a way. If I introduce you to the right person and it clicks, you aren't even thinking about like choosing the person. It just happens. But there are the moments where you do have to choose the thing, where someone wronged you, your partner wronged you, you know, there's conflict and you have to double down and say, okay, I'm going to choose you even when it's hard right now. And then you get over that hump and then boom, back in love.
Yes, but initially that interest, that spark, that...
Was that a good analogy?
Perfect,
Yeah.
because
you don't question it.
You can. This is perfect because you can, because it's such a romantic sentiment. But there really is, and I speak here for, I hope a wide range of men who've experienced this. When you see a woman, and you are interested, immediately interested, it's like,
no words.
Man,
yeah,
there's nothing you can do, you know. And the same will happen in any area of your life that you want to be.
And you find it, and then you double down. But what I would say is to a kid who just doesn't know.
Try.
Yes, and then you create passion, genuinely, and you get good at things by doing things you suck, and then you do it long enough that you get good at it, and then you get some praise and affirmation. You feel good about yourself. Like, come on. Who goes in the gym, gets on the bench, and just starts knocking out plates? Nobody.
Exactly.
But you do that once, and you do enough where you feel good about yourself. And then the next week you do a little bit more, and then you're like, screw me from a week ago. I'm better than me from a week ago. And then more and more and more, suddenly you're this jack dude, and it just started out with you sucked at it, but you stuck with it. And I think we live in such a soft society, at least in the United States here, where just kids are unwilling to do something for a period where they suck, you know? And maybe the analogy, bringing it back to love, is going up to the girl like you said. You might suck at the encounter or the approach, but man, if you stick with it, eventually the right one's going to say yes.
Perhaps before you meet the love of your life, it was necessary for you to ask that girl to prom who says to you, laughs in your face and says, no, you're fat, bro. Like whatever the case may be. But
Rejection
perhaps
is just a redirection.
Beautiful. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, my prayer, so I think you know this, 2 dream schools, Notre Dame and Stanford.
Yes.
Running a fight not on the table, was not making money off of it. Maybe I think I had a $200 deal with Liquid IV or a commission, and I made like $200 off of it. Not enough to support myself. My prayer every night before bed was, Jesus, I pray that financial opportunities might chase me down. You say, ask and you shall receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. For whoever seeks, finds, whoever knocks, the door will be open to. You know, for in giving you receive, something of that sort. And the prayer after that was, okay, God, you said this. I'm asking you not even to get into those schools. Pray this prayer every night before bed. Not even to get into those schools, but to open the right doors and to close the wrong ones. And when you close the wrong one, open the right one. And I think that prayer fundamentally changed my life and opened doors. Because why do we expect God to give us things if we're not even asking for them? We assume that God yes, God knows what we want, but we assume that because he knows what the deepest desires of our hearts, that he's going to give them to us. No, we need to humble ourselves and say, God, I can't do this by myself, and so I need you. Maybe you prayed similar prayers out in the loop. I can't do this by myself. And so I'm humbling myself. Pride is the fall of man. God, I reject pride. I'm humbling myself. I know I can't do this without you. Will you come and help me out? And his loving, gracious goodness, that's all he wants to do, you know? That's why, I mean, you know God, it's like you see a non-believer and you're just like, man, Jesus pines for you. He wants you. He wants you to come to him, and he's a good, loving, gracious God. He wants to give you the desires of your heart. And the unchecked desires, he wants to close those doors to open a reality even better. I'm sure you know buddies who got their hearts ripped out in high school or maybe present day, and then they meet the woman of their dreams and they think, oh my gosh, thank you, Lord, that you closed that door. It hurt so much in the moment, and I could have never seen the right door opening after this one, but it did. Yes. But we assume, for whatever reason, in our pride, that our way is better than God's way.
I'm a little emotional there. Yeah. My younger brother, who crewed for me at the race, Johan, the most important person in my life. Very intelligent young man, a non-believer. To him, belief and God just isn't logical enough.
Get in the room.
And listen, and I realize, regardless of how suave and precise and well articulated and informational and experienced the words I use are, that door just hasn't opened for him yet, and that is fine. And if it never does, it never does.
That's what we're talking about, logic versus relationship. This is why the churchgoer, like I'm Catholic, and the Catholic Church has a crisis in the U.S. all the time. Cradle Catholic, baptized Catholic, you do it because your parent, you go to Mass, you think about the sports game later in the day, you're not at all attuned, and then you're 18, you leave the house, you never go to church again. And it was never, Jesus wants relationship. He doesn't want, you just checking the box.
Yes.
Imagine if, I'd be a bad friend if it was just like, oh, here's what Alex wants to be said. Here's how he wants me to show up. That's not what Jesus wants. And so I pray for your brother, because I believe there will be a point in his life where he experiences Jesus in an undeniable way that it's just like, that was God. And I think the best thing you can do as a brother, as a believer, is pray for that moment to happen. Because, I mean, the other thing I would say is, and I would say this to the audience, a lot of people have family members or people who aren't close to Christ, have no grounding in their life, totally lost sheep, take religion out of it, just like not living well. And I love this saying, you might be the closest person to Jesus that someone will ever experience, someone will ever meet. Are you embodying love your neighbor more than yourself? Are you embodying the kindness, the joy, the humility of Christ? Those traits can change someone's life and can lead someone. Like my brother, Joseph, I mean, that guy is off the charts joyful, where people around him are like, people ask this question, why are you like this? And then because he knows, Jesus, man, like I'm this way because of Jesus. I try to emulate his life. This joy isn't from me, it's out of this world. So the best thing you can do as a believer is live like a believer, right? And I'd rather be friends with someone who lives like Christ and doesn't profess him than someone who professes Christ and doesn't live like him.
What I'm most happy about regarding this podcast, aside from the fact that I get a platform and we get at these conversations, is you have designed for yourself an environment in which I think also, aside from being able to explore the most profound and deep parts of other people, you have the opportunity constantly to go inward like you just did in such a beautiful way. I never met your brother, and we texted briefly, but
Other brother, actually.
Other brother. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
mixed them up then. But there is a quality of reflection in what you just shared. Most people don't engage in their everyday life for months. And every time I speak to you, it feels as though Dominic has dug a little deeper every single time. And it's a beautiful thing to see, man.
Thank you. I try. I mean, it's so hard with these phones nowadays, and anytime I've been on my phone, it's been in relation to this podcast,
yeah.
trying to pull up how many loops he did, 37, 36, 38. But I mean, people will go their entire lives without having a conversation with this level of depth. And if you don't tell people how you feel, how will they know? You know, it's like, what's the point of living if you're not actually going to reveal your true self? You're not actually going to reflect. You're not actually going to. One of the best reflections I've had in my life the past year is you are sacrificing so many other things you could be doing right now. Running, maybe not. Your legs are dead right now. Running, lifting, doom scrolling on your phone. You could go on another podcast. You could go talk to Nick Bear if you take 10 steps out there. You could go email 10 brands, trying to work with them. You could go to a homeless shelter. You could go to the grocery store. You could look at flights home. I don't know. Shoot your shot with the girl in the red dress. I don't know, man. But you chose, out of all those things, that I am valuable enough for your time. It is then on the prerogative, and vice versa, from me to you. You are a valuable enough guest that everything else in my life is on pause right now for you. The best thing we can do as human beings is respect that exchange of attention, time. Nothing worse than going to dinner with someone who's on their phone constantly. That's been me, man. Before, many, many times. Ask my family. No one likes that person. They're not fun to be around because they're not present. They're not with you. They're not investing in you. People feel investment. We're so off the beaten path, but I think it's worthy of discussing and talking about. The best thing you can do for your teammates, young kids listen to this podcast, high school, college, elite runners, best thing you can do, man. I missed those 4 years in high school cross country, asking my teammates how they are, disagreeing about something. Like, no one understands politics at that age. Talking, you're wrong. It's great. You know, it's amazing. So many people just commentate about life. They don't ask about life. Especially
to those kids in high school, man. Be in it now. Like, be in it now. You're going to be old enough to be buying houses and cars and marrying and whatever. Be in high school now. You know, enjoy it now. It's such a brief period of your life. I'm staring down the barrel of 30 sometime soon in the next 3 years. And I think back to when I was of high school age. So focused and obsessed with the future and what I'm going to do with myself and whatever the case may be. If you're in high school, be in high school, you know.
Have I read you The Paradox of Our Times?
I don't believe so.
Okay. If I have, you'll like it a second time. This is the best writing I've ever read in my entire life. I forget who it was, but it really impacted me. And we'll wrap this up and then we'll end on some stories from the ranch. Send people on their way. The paradox of our times. The paradox of our time in history is that we have taller buildings but shorter tempers, wider freeways but narrower viewpoints. We spend more but have less. We buy more but enjoy less. We have bigger houses and smaller families, more conveniences but less time. We have more degrees but less sense, more knowledge but less judgment, more experts yet more problems, more medicine but less wellness. We drink too much, smoke too much, spend too recklessly, laugh too little, drive too fast, get too angry, stay up too late, get up too tired, read too little, watch TV too much, and pray too seldom. We have multiplied our possessions but reduced our values. We talk too much, love too seldom, and hate too often. We've learned how to make a living but not a life. We've added years to life but not life to years. We've been all the way to the moon and back but have trouble crossing the street to meet a new neighbor. We've conquered outer space but not inner space. We've done larger things but not better things. We've cleaned up the air but polluted the soul. We've conquered the atom but not our prejudice. We write more but learn less. We plan more but accomplish less. We've learned to rush but not to wait. We build more computers to hold more information, to produce more copies than ever, but we communicate less and less. These are the times of fast foods and slow digestion, big men and small character, steep profits and shallow relationships. These are the days of 2 incomes but more divorce, fancier houses but broken homes. These are the days of quick trips, disposable diapers, throwaway morality, one-night stands, overweight bodies, and pills that do everything from cheer to quiet to kill. It is a time when there is much in the showroom and nothing in the stockroom. Chills.
Beautiful. Beautifully done. Very true. I think ultimately when digesting a message like this, it's important to be aware of its truth. It's important to recognize especially when it's uncomfortable, which of those lines apply to me, you know? And then it's important to do your part in contributing to a world that moves away from this nonsense. That's the whole. Today, it's so easy to consume media that will show to you how the world is messed up, but it's so difficult to find people who are trying to, and I mean actually trying, not on social media trying, actually trying to contribute to living in a world that is different, you know? I'd love for you to send me the text later on. I want to read it again. Yeah. That was very good.
It starts with intentionality of living, of talking, of speaking, of moving. Speaking of that intentionality, on the ranch, favorite stories?
Favorite stories?
Moments.
I ran 2.5 loops barefoot. People were telling me that it was a little wild of me to do, but when the rain hit on day 2, it was so heavy and intense and so quick. I was out on the loop and I was going very, very slow because I was feeling good. I didn't really need much food again. So I thought to myself, I'll do a 58-minute loop, come in, talk to the guys, go back out quickly. So I was going very slow. Then the rain hits. Immediately, of course it's muddy. I'm wearing the Mount to Coast R1s, the best shoe I've ever ran in, but it's very flat, so no grip. And all of a sudden, I'm moving far too slow. I'm not going to make it. So I ripped the shoes off, ripped the socks off, and I just run through the mud. And the mud was soft and rich enough.
Are you holding your shoes?
Yeah, I'm holding my shoes. And the mud was rich enough and thick enough and creamy enough so that even if there were some stones there was too much mud for my feet to get to them. So I couldn't even injure myself. So I ran a very good pace through the mud, no problem. And then I just kept them off, for another 2 laps, I think. 2 loops. And people were laughing. Harry Lewis recorded me. I made it to his Instagram. That was pretty cool. Johnny Davies laughed at me. I told the mud took Johnny Davies out of the race. Essentially, I think that he was struggling with it a lot. And I told him,
he rolled his ankle like 10 times. Told me.
I told him, bro, you're so big. Like you gotta get the shoes off because I have a US size 14. Despite the fact I'm not a really particularly tall guy, but I have huge feet. And so with the huge Hokas I had on, with the mud, I'm carrying almost 3 extra kilo per shoe. Mm-hmm. Take them off.
Not a time for weight training, man.
Exactly. Not 100 plus miles into the race.
Yeah.
So that was a big one. Then there was a lady, her name was Stacy. We start the loop. I don't know what hour that was, but she had left all her stuff in the back because she wanted to start the loop and immediately ring the bell. So she takes a few steps, turns around. I see her. Kim also does, and I'm like, no, come on, let's go. And so I kind of forced her out, and she had nothing on her. So I shared my food, I shared my drink. I made sure she also ate and drank, kind of forced her to. She was game. Gave her my rain jacket in case she was cold. She took it off eventually because she was warm. And I just had a conversation with her. I asked her questions to distract her from not wanting to be out there. I learned a lot about her. It was nice. We had a good exchange. She thanked me. So Stacy, if you're listening, shout out. You did a great job. She ran further than she ever did. The same goes for strong, fast lady. Her name was Timmy. She was from Hungary. She was there with her partner who was German, and they live in Dublin. She also wanted to quit. She was just about to turn around. I saw her as I was eating something, and I was like, Timmy, what are you doing? And she started crying. I was like, no, come on, let's go. So I took her out as well. And then after all that happened, I had a conversation with Mark because he was up ahead of me. I was no longer sure how long I'll be in the race, and I didn't want to leave the race and not having spoken to him. I ran up to him and I said, I don't want to interrupt your race, but I just wanted to say, aside from all this, the sport and the athleticism of it all, I really appreciate you for the manner in which you carry yourself and the manner in which you speak and the manner in which you carry yourself with intention through this, why you're doing this. That resonates with me. I appreciate the success, but that's what moves me. And we had a conversation, and then we finished the loop together, and over those, I don't know what it was, 1.5 miles, maybe less, we connected, I felt, and we had a great exchange. And later I learned, we spoke after the race, speaking to Mark was a highlight. definitely. And I saw some footage of me towards the end of the race that I don't remember, but I recall I was running on the second loop past the campsite, and all of a sudden I can hear my guys. So I can hear Aaron screaming, I can hear my brother, I can hear Ben. I look to the right, and I can recognize this is the camp area. And I can see men running with me and screaming at me, but I don't recognize them. I don't know who they are, but I can hear my guys. And Aaron took a video of it, and in the video, my eyes are like wide open because I'm like so out of. I'm like somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That was intense. I hallucinated a dragon out there. Small stuff.
Did you slay the dragon?
No, it was a plant ultimately.
Okay.
But when I saw, again, excuse me for the profanity, but when I saw the dragon, I just closed my eyes. I shook my head, like, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off. Yeah. And tears, lots of fighting and tears.
What was the single biggest thing you learned about yourself out on the course?
Athletically, just in terms of like logistics for the race, this format, if I want to do it again in the future, much more strength work. Definitely. I need just to be more robust, stronger, and faster, so I can tolerate the nights better. Personally, emotionally, spiritually, even if I didn't go as far as the best in the competition, I can still throw down. I can still fight when it counts. Because I was out of the race a few times before I was out of the race. So I'm happy with that.
I think going into the race, I told people, I was like, if he makes it 24 hours, 100 miles, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'd be impressed, and I think he'd consider this a win. Given the conversation we had 45 days prior, where you're like, yes. I'm not training, I'm not feeling good, I don't know if I like running at all. And so it seemed, at least from the outset, that you exceeded expectations even for yourself, and it seems like you like running again.
I do.
Which is the most important thing.
I do it. To make it into the top 10 in that field, the competition was, the people were so strong.
What would you have placed, third last year?
Yeah.
Third, yeah.
Because Mitch was third and he DNF'd at loop 30, I think.
Wow.
So, yeah. Like, the competition in comparison to last year was not even comparable. Yeah. Last year, I think it was still around 20 people left after 24 hours. This year was like 47 or 57. It was insane.
Wow.
It was insane. So hats off to anyone who competed. There were so many people. If I may, one last person I want to shout out. There was a gentleman, his name was Daniel. And Daniel was a dog. He was fighting, man. And I spoke to him, and the reason he was fighting so much was because he has a young boy. His name is Lincoln. And Daniel wanted to prove to himself that Lincoln has a father who can throw down, who can, And we shared a few loops out there, and eventually he was gone. I didn't see him anymore. But Dan, if you're listening, my utmost respect. Anyone in this race format, really, but I had a little moment with Dan there. So,
will you win this race one day?
I think with the popularity is gaining, more and more elites are going to be drawn to it. So I'm not going to sit here and announce anything of that nature. We saw how that went with the blonde gentleman and Mark, when Mark called him out. I forgot the runner's name, but he announced he could.
Charlie Lawrence, yeah.
Yes, Charlie. Listen, much love to you. I don't know you, Charlie, but you handled that weirdly, man.
No one's beating Mark.
Yeah.
Especially in those conditions.
And so, will I ever win this race? If life goes... If I'm towing the line again next year, I'm definitely towing the line with the ambition to do the very best I can, and I think I can go far. What got me this time was just a lack of sleep, and I didn't prepare for that, really. I didn't prepare for many things. If I can dial it in, and I can do my best in training, and I can prepare, and I do it well, I would love to shoot for 3 days. But I know the elites of the elites go for 100 plus hours. Do I have that in me? I don't know. So I'm not going to say I'm ever going to win. But this weekend felt like a win to me.
Yeah.
And
as it should.
That's what the sport is supposed to give me. I don't want to be too focused on
you versus you, man. I mean, that's what Mark told me. I don't know if you saw. I had him on. had him on the podcast
Brother,
right before. Good things happen when you come on the pod.
Amazing episode.
Yeah, do you listen to it? Yeah, and you could just tell he didn't care about anyone.
Yes.
Because they kept asking him about Kim, and he was happy to talk about it. But
He
very
gave a
focused on
beautiful
himself.
answer. Kim
Yeah.
and I listened to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I hope
beautiful.
Kim wasn't offended.
no,
When
not
I,
at all.
When I brought up, I said, Kim said he'll die. Do you think he died?
No, and Mark gave such a beautiful
I thought he
and
did
concise
too.
answer. And walking away from it, Kim also said to me that was extremely human. Like that was very, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Hopefully, I don't want to. I'd love to see Mark in Germany at the last solo show this summer. Just to hang out with him. Aside
Be
from
tough though. That and then that, or this, then that.
No, he's got big dogs in.
Yeah.
So I told him, like, if you just want to do simulation in Germany, just a little training run.
Yeah. It's like 2 day.
Just a little 45, or I don't know, a little 50, a little 60, whatever.
Have a little food between
Just to
laps.
flush the legs,
Yeah, get a little sleep. I
Yeah.
love it, man. We've been rolling for an hour 15, so we'll wrap this up. I'm sure Kim's wondering where I am. He can wait for the king, though. Final takeaway message for the audience. I mean, every time I have you on, you share a little part of your heart, your soul. Inspire someone listening who's stuck with us this long. What do you want them to take away from this 45-day turnaround, this life turnaround, really, and what you've made of yourself?
I want anyone listening to what I say now to approach it with an open mind, because I don't want to shut anyone off. But what I will share is Joel 2:12. I wrote it on my shirt before I started the race. My favorite verse, because it was the first time that I had heard someone. It was Philip Anthony Mitchell. I heard him preach about it, and I bawled my eyes out. Yet even now, in the middle of your rebellion, return to me through fasting and mourning and weeping. You are worthy of a relationship to Christ, to God, to yourself, to your highest self. You are worthy, despite your shortcomings and your mistakes and your dishonesty and lack of loyalty, and turn to Him and cry about how broken you are, and you'll be better off than anything else. That's the message.
Alexander, always a privilege, always a pleasure. Told you I was a man of my word. I would meet you down here. I met you down here, and boy, was it worth it. And no words, man. Thanks for always blessing me with your time, with your wisdom. It's always a privilege, always a pleasure.
It's been an honor, man. Thank you so much.